little thing. Okay, here we
It's
go.
going. It's going.
We are live, I think. Yes.
Amazing.
Okay. Hello again, friends, to episode 7, our episode 7 discussion. I was about to say week 7. It's technically week 6 because the first two were uh, uh,
Together.
together. We're gonna be having a bit of a day today. I don't know if you guys remember a couple weeks ago, we said that like we were week 8, episode 8, that was the one that was going to be the one where all of technology was finally going to come together for us. So this is episode 7. So next week is going to be the one, okay, where like technology is going to be on our side and
Oh
everything's going
God,
to be
don't build it
smooth.
up too much.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah,
I
you
mean,
know.
this week I'm not in my office, so I had to last minute travel for work. So weirdly, in pandemic times, I am in a hotel. So apologize for the quality. Like my laptop is shaking because I'm literally in a bed. But
And coming to us via mobile hotspot. Uh,
yes. Spotty Wi-Fi here, so hopefully everything goes smoothly. But if anything is a little glitchy or slow, it's spotty Wi-Fi. So apologies.
there's only so much we can do. But I wanted to just sort of set that at the top. I just felt like we should lead with that. But anyway, now that we have covered that ground, we are discussing episode 7, breaking the fourth wall. This is the first of the like longer. I think this one, all of the last 3 episodes are going to be in this like 45 to an hour episode like time range, which is exciting. So in this episode, we start with the next stop on our journey through the decades of family sitcom is, of course, Modern Family. That had to be the one. Wanda decides that she is going to punish herself for recklessly expanding the boundaries of her fake reality by taking a quarantine-style staycation. Our pal Agnes stops by to take the twins off Wanda's hands so that she can get a day to herself. Across town, Vision wakes up in the middle of the newly created Sword Circus. He finds Darcy and recognizes her from the night before, so he uses his powers to release her from like the Hex's trance, and they have dynamic duo shenanigans as Darcy catches Vision up on like her understanding of what's really going on in Westview, as well as everything that led up to this moment, including his death. Outside the Hex, Haywood continues to be bent on blowing the problem up. Elsewhere, Jimmy and Monica realize that Sword kept Vision's body because they were trying to reanimate him, which, like, had in the 5 years that they've been holding on to this corpse had not happened. It had not happened until Wanda brought him to Westview. And so now Haywood's like big evil motive is reclaiming his sentient weapon. Jimmy and Monica reach Monica's pals, who outfit her in like an astronaut looking suit and a big old tank that they believe will withstand the anomaly's transformation. They're wrong. It will not. The tank is met with strong resistance, like upon trying to enter, and then it starts transforming. Monica bails out, like as the tank is transforming, but then decides that she's going to charge in herself anyway. She would have had a truck if she had just stayed in. It's not clear to me why she didn't just roll with that. But anyway, we get this really trippy sequence of her fighting her way into the Hex, and we can hear like Carol's voice and all sorts of little things going on in there. And then once inside, her eyes are like glowing blue, and that is our cue that she has definitely had her superpower transformation. And third time's the charm, third time through the Hex. And then presto magic, superhero. Somewhere in there, we also get the episode's commercial, which is a commercial for Nexus antidepressants. Monica who does not have a truck and only has her own 2 legs, runs directly to Wanda's house and tries to tell Wanda what she knows about Haywood and like begs her not to let Haywood turn her into the villain. And Wanda is like, well, okay, but what if I already am? And so this is sort of, I don't know, we're seeing like hints of this throughout the episode. That's Wanda's energy throughout this episode. By like the fact that it begins with her being like I did a bad thing yesterday. And so like that's the first, I don't know, hint of that we're really like intensely seeing in this season. Agnes sees this going down through her window where she is babysitting the twins, who the twin who has like more like Wanda's powers, was like freaking out because he can hear everybody's thoughts and it's very, very loud. At the beginning of the episode, when he first got to Agnes's house, he like notes that Agnes is quiet, which is like, you know, we're leading up to the episode's big reveal. So Agnes comes out and she tells Monica that she's really got to go, and she ushers Wanda back inside. Once inside Agnes's house, Wanda senses that something is fishy. So she makes her way down to Agnes's creepy basement, or as we would call this if it's for a SnarkSquad recap, the basement of don't go in there. But Wanda does indeed go in there. So Agnes pops down to tell her like, hey, you're not the only magical gal in town. And Agnes is, in fact, Agatha Harkness. And then we are treated to a truly delightful Agnes montage. She gets a theme song, and there is like a montage of basically Agnes cutscenes. So like throughout the season, just sort of like various moments that we sort of see her kind of in the background or whatever, letting us know, as the song says, Agatha has been pulling evil strings all along. Roll credits, but wait, there's more. This is also our very first mid-credit scene of the season. Monica correctly realizes that there's something way off about Agnes. And so she snoops around her house. Monica finds an external cellar entrance, but just as she opens it, Quicksilver appears behind her, and that is the for real end of the episode. So, wow.
And nothing to, yes, add in as you were going, because my spotty Wi-Fi was cutting in and out. So it was like getting bits and pieces of it, but it kept like tuning in at the best moments. Like it would be like, oh, lag. And then like the basement of don't go in there. And I was like, yeah.
Incredible. Miriam points out that Monica also lands in a superhero stance. Yes, in addition to the glowy eyes, there's like the way that she plops down. And then we get additional confirmation, which is having her sort of confrontation with Monica. That is like, yes, this is, or when Monica is having her confrontation with Wanda, that's like, yes, Monica has superpowers. The basement of Don't Go In There is an oldie but a goodie. Snooper's gonna snoop. Quicksilver's comment. That's the final bit of dialogue of the episode. The Agatha bit confirmed, the little montage confirmed a number, called out to a number of things, but also raised some questions in the process. So, we see her in the background at Quicksilver's mysterious arrival. So like she's got something to do with that, and whoever he is, there's a clear connection there. What else? Oh, Herb was the one who also appeared to be like aware or in on it in some sort of way that like caused trouble with Vision. That was one of the things that was acknowledged in the Agatha montage. So a bunch of different things going on there. That I'm sure we will discuss, but I'm getting ahead of myself because we have to start where we always start. The big question: did you like it?
I'm assuming you asked if I liked it.
Oh wow!
I'm so sorry. The Wi-Fi is so bad.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Wait, you just cut out.
Sorry. Okay.
Did you like it?
Okay, great. I did. I liked it a whole lot. I think that there was nothing here that was like too far out of left field. Like I felt like there were a lot of things that we knew were coming, reached a lot of conclusions that we had talked about, but those are the reasons that I liked it. I felt that it was very satisfying in that way, and I enjoyed the sitcom part of it. So it's always like these different things: the MCU, the sitcom part of it, and then sort of like the overall mystery and lore that this is building. And all of
Mm-hmm.
those things were good for me. There were a couple things, just like last week, that you could probably criticize. The 1D villain was a thing last week, and then there were a couple moments like that I was like, eh, but overall, thumbs up for me.
I okay. So before we get for any further, there's a comment in the chat that I had a moment like this past week when I finally finished my Scarlet Witch comics. The hex also ties in along with that witch cackle from last episode, and that hexes are what witches do. I don't know if anybody else made that connection, but it was only while I was reading this because she says it a whole bunch in the comic. It's like, I cast that hex and I did this, hex that, hex whatever. That I was like, oh, she's a witch. So,
yeah. Right now in the comments and hearing you say that, first time that
okay, cool.
connected in my head. So.
Okay. I'm glad that was
why, though? Because they led it with hexagon, like that's where they took our brain immediately, and we immediately were noticing that pattern. So the fact that it was shortened to hex, like, no, I did not immediately think of anything else because it was hexagon in my brain.
Yeah, I saw that comment and I was like, okay, you two, great, thank you. So that was an experience that I had earlier this week. But I also loved this episode. I agree that there were. You're like crackling. We're getting like, I don't know if it's your mic on.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Yes, so there were a bunch of the major reveals were all like things that we generally saw coming. Like none of these things are sort of big surprises. Like we knew Monica was getting superpowers. That was very clearly seeded. The whole reason that I wanted to go back and like read these is that I was like, okay, I gotta know about I need to know more about Agatha Harkness. So like that, whatever. All of that, but like to your point, it was narratively satisfying. Like we knew those things because they were being seeded, and I think I appreciate this show so much for the way in which it is like doing interesting things, but not treating shock as like not making that its objective. And yet the other thing I will say is that even though like all of the big reveals were things that we definitely saw coming, this is the most tense from beginning to end that I have felt in an episode of this show so far. Like I was anxious for all 45 minutes. So like even though nothing was ever like, hugely shocking, they still managed to get to those things in ways that I thought that were like interesting and surprising. And I don't know. I loved this. I have been enjoying this experience, and like this episode is no exception for all of the reasons that I am just sort of like diametrically opposed to people who are really touchy about spoilers. That like I don't know, like it's cool to see the journey, like and to feel like I understood how we are getting to this point. All of those little, I feel like that moment with the Agatha montage could have been honestly like fucking annoying if it had come out of nowhere, like a really really weird retcon. But like the fact that they were able to call back to all of these very specific moments, and moments that we called out as like something is off here, I don't know what, but something is off here, and then like this is the answer, like this is it, this is what was off there. I'm into it.
and the ways that this show has always been so like meta, right? And very self-aware. So even like during that, all of these things where we were questioning or like, did she kill the dog? Like, what was that about? And so the way that it presented it was also very meta, and ending with, and I killed the dog too. Like, it's very aware of what it was doing and saying, like, yeah, good for you. You picked up on these moments. Like, they were what you thought they were. We are confirming it, but it felt like a very satisfying confirmation. And
Mm-hmm.
again, just adding that bit of humor because it was self-aware, self-referential, and being like, yes, this is obviously what we're doing.
Yes. Yes. All of those things. Okay. Well, all right. So this narrative payoff thing was on our list of things to discuss, but I feel like we'll circle back to it later, and we can start with the I don't know, the sort of running list of things that we kind of go through. So starting with the sitcom, which, as we've mentioned previously, is getting it's a shrinking part of the episode consistently. But I this was interesting because last time we were like the thing felt a little bit like less clear. We had a harder time sort of pinning down like what and where we were. I like this was, or no, not last time. Last time was the Malcolm in the Middle. 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago was that was the one that was like the 80s. The 80s one was a little, I don't know what this is. This one was super clear. Like before we even got to the talking head, like as soon as we cut to her in bed, I was like, oh, I know what this is. And again, it's a show I did not watch.
Didn't watch it either.
But it is ubiquitous enough that like even but like the talking head is like the sort of the big moment, like that's where all of the show's gifts and stuff are from. But like there was something about the energy of it that was very obvious that it was Modern Family immediately. But also it was such a good choice for, I think it was a very good choice for this episode because of the fact that we were also sort of zeroing in on this Wanda, on like, so it's like Modern Family is sort of the main, like that's the sitcom reference point, but there's also a little bit of, I don't know, like Real Housewives energy to it, of this like, that's not like the correct reference, but you get you get what I mean, that like the way that we're zeroing it, like
Yes.
this particular plot of Wanda's, it felt like they wove those two things together very, very well. Yeah. Did you have any
And
big any? Oh yeah, go ahead.
the energy too is like more harried mom than we've seen before, I guess. And part of that is just like, her losing control in general, but just the that aspect of it was also very like fitting narratively for where she is in
Uh-huh.
her own story. But in the grand scheme of like the sitcom too, to see like that energy was very fitting.
Yes, yes. That is what I was trying to where I was going with that. Um yes, The Office, which also another show that relies pretty heavily on the talking head. I mean, yeah, I guess it truly could have been just as much that, like it's probably also both of them. My head defaulted more to Modern Family just because it's most of the things they have chosen have been like family sitcoms. But yes, that is also clearly part of what they were doing there. Anyway, that's all I got on the sitcom thing.
Yes. You too, because and those are two things that I have not watched. So again, not a lot of like, nostalgia is not probably the right word anymore because we're caught up to like modern times. They have a lot of connections there just for like, oh, this is a thing that I've seen and liked. But it because we have caught up to like modern times or whatnot, there were enough just like, it feels like I'm watching a TV show that I could turn on right now and watch. Like there was
Right.
that sense of connection. And of all, maybe not of all, but it kind of feels that way, of all of like the sitcom episodes, I enjoyed this one in a different way. It wasn't that nostalgia thing, but it just felt like we were watching something normal, like a normal episode of this TV
Yeah.
show. You know what I
Uh-huh,
mean? Like
uh-huh.
it
Yes,
didn't
yes,
feel
yes.
like a weird flashback or anything. It was just like, okay, Wanda woke up the day after and this is what she's dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
felt more seamless, I guess, than the previous episodes.
Yes, I would agree with that. Sorry, I moved my tabs around and now my desktop is chaos. Hold, please. I was like, I can try to keep like talking, or I can just pause and fix this. Okay. Anyway, I haven't watched any sitcoms in long enough that the specific references here were lost on me, but it felt narratively and stylistically cohesive even without it. Yes.
Right.
Yes. To Mari's point about it feeling like an episode of a thing, a normal episode of a thing.
And like the in previous episodes, the flashes between sitcom and like outside sword stuff was enough of a big enough departure, or like you felt the big differences between those two.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the flashes between like the sitcom and the MCU stuff here, it didn't feel like there was such a gulf. Like we've narrowed that gap now enough that you really see it coming together in this place where the sitcom and the MCU sword stuff is like really coming together in story, but also like now stylistically, you know, that there's that nearness there as well.
Yes. I just love it. So speaking of the MCU, that, I mean, this is normally like, okay, segue into characters and stuff, but I feel like and then we kind of get to the MCU, but we're now kind of at the point where this is all, it's all one. So our big sort of character, our two biggest character things to discuss here are Monica and Agatha. I mean, I guess Wanda there's always Wanda, but how do you feel about this latest development in Monica's story?
I loved it so much. I mean, we've been loving like the promise of that, and we talked a little bit last week about how she got this like mini origin story packed in an episode, and like you hit all of the key points of that. And I think that this episode carried that as well. And so you got these like really tropey superhero origin story moments as well. So her passing through the hex and hearing the memories and getting that moment of like fighting through it and absorbing or changing the powers. Just classic.
And her decision to charge in anyway, like after the truck, that's all that moment. And as everybody stands, oh, Monica, no, don't do it.
Yes.
Very...
And then she's going through when she's hearing all of these people telling her, you know, remembering people telling her you're special, you're strong, and she's fighting, and you see all of these versions of herself and surrounded by like such a trope, so like basic and clear cut, but so wonderful. I don't know. I loved that moment. And so when you get to the point where she is literally showing down with Wanda, she's not scared. She's realizing that she's got some power. She lands in that like classic superhero like stance or whatnot. I thought it was just such a great payoff. And it was just, like I said, just very, very classic superhero stuff that I'm into. So I was like eating it up.
Well, and the thing is, like, that is one of the things that is so great about the central conceit of this show is that, like, because it is built around this TV thing, it makes it, it lends, like, I don't know. It makes all decisions to any like tropey storytelling decision like feels I don't know, more narratively meaningful just because of the larger like meta thing that they're doing. Miriam mentioned the aspect ratio changing things, which yes, that being one of the things that in terms of like in and out of the hex, but not always, but sometimes. The only time that I noticed the aspect ratio change in this episode was cutting to Vision. Was Vision. It was like expanding on Vision, but I like genuinely did not notice it any other time in the episode.
I didn't notice it anytime. I was watching this time on my phone because I am like traveling or whatnot, so it's like on this little screen. I was like, what's going on? So don't count on me to have noticed any nuances like that this time around.
I really admire your dedication to the cause here, though. Really, really incredible. Yes, at hashtag Team Photon. Yeah, I also literally the first thing I did, like I had been aware of, you know, like we've discussed the idea that Monica's gonna get her superpowers and whatever, and that like she's, you know, powered in the universe of the comics. I had read like forever ago I don't know, when I first saw that Tiana Parrish was cast as Monica Rambeau, like somewhere in there, that Monica Rambeau is at some point Captain Marvel, and I was like, oh, okay, like whatever. And it didn't occur to me to like think about that, you know, with any more depth. But as soon as this episode finished, I was like, okay, wait, I gotta know. Like, she's probably not going to be Captain Marvel. So like, what are the other, what are the options? And apparently there's like 4 options of things that she could potentially be. I don't know. Could be called unclear to me, but I'm excited. I'm excited all the same.
Photon, Captain Marvel. So she's been called multiple things throughout. And I think from what I've seen, and again, just skimming today, a lot of people think this is more Spectrum than anything else, is from what I see. Part of what's happening on the MCU side of this is now there have been references enough in past things that I could keep up with as somebody who has watched all of the movies. But now we're like more facing forward. These are things that are informed by things that have happened in the comics, but we haven't necessarily seen on screen. So they're like deeper MCU cuts that I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I knew she was gonna get powers. Who she is and what those powers are beats me. Like, I don't know.
She saw electricity. Okay, wait. All right. Yeah, the only thing that I read in terms of like, yes, but powers, things that it could be was, yeah, Spectrum is the one where she can change into like energy. She can change into things. Or maybe that is Photon. I don't know. But that one felt, the description of that, those powers, that power description felt in line with what would happen to her, you know, if her origin story is going in and out of the hex. But I don't know. The shift in visible spectrum for her suggests a thing, but those are characters that I don't know. Oh, and okay, Miriam is saying that photon pulsar spectrum is the same continuum. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So photon pulsar, so it's that, or there's Captain Marvel. She's not Captain Marvel. So she's whatever that is, name TBD. That makes sense. Okay. All right, we've got it. We've nailed. I'm sure there is some comic book reader who's like, no, you don't got it. We're gonna let that lie. I just seeing her hit all of those beats was really, really cool and exciting, and I just am so, I love this as a way into kind of like a larger sort of spinning out. And we're currently making our way through the DC stuff, as I think we've mentioned elsewhere on this stream. But one of the things that we talked about a lot in the first episode is the way in which one of the problems with the like early DC movies is that they kind of, it seems like they got ahead of themselves. They were like, okay, the MCU has this whole thing, so like let's also smash all the characters together, but like without acknowledging that part of how the MCU did that was that they gave so many of these characters their own vehicles. And so while not every character got introduced with their own vehicle, you were only having to introduce a couple characters at a time. Avengers only introduces 2 new, I think Hawkeye and Black Widow are the only people who are like, who hadn't had their own, you know, movie at that point in time. Everybody else had. I mean, I don't know, Hulk dubiously. Hulk, he had a movie, okay?
He did.
So, but anyway, and like in doing it that way, this sort of like gradual weaving in, and I don't know, in terms of the, you know, to take a step back and look at like larger MCU stuff, the way in which like this method of introducing stuff, I think, I don't know, is really, really interesting. And like they managed to do so much with so little space. Like they managed to cover so much ground with this character. I mean, it helped that technically this isn't this character's first appearance, but like, I don't know, functionally it is. It's a whole, like she was a child the last time we saw her. DC wanted to jump straight to the Avengers without going through Iron Man. Yes, correct. I mean, they did do some movies, but yes, like they made like a brief, they made like a sort of half-hearted attempt at it, but it was not enough.
I think that there's 2 things here. One is you see how adept Marvel has I mean, they've told this origin story now how many times? So you kind of get the sense that now they hit all of those notes, and they were like, in 10 to 15 minutes, like, we just gave you like this entire, and you're like, damn, yeah, you've done this before, like, you know what you're doing. But I will say that Monica has the benefit that even though we haven't seen her and she was a child, a lot of the things that they're giving us are like touchstones to things we have seen. So they keep bringing Captain Marvel into this, her mom, and saying like, okay, these are the pieces you have seen and that you have emotions tied into.
Yeah.
So every time you hear Captain Marvel tell her, like, you know, they gave your mom the strongest kid, you're like, I know that one, like, I know that movie. So it's like an immediate shortcut to your feelings and to your memory, so it does a lot of the work on its own, where DC didn't have anything laid, it didn't have anything. It was, you know, skipping a bunch of steps. Marvel is skipping steps here in some regard to with Monica, but they're using things that they've already given us in order to pave that way. So it's super smart.
They're not DC to the degree that they were relying on things. They were relying on like the existence of other canon, that like, oh, we have comic books and there's other places, and it's like, no, you need to, like, it needs to exist in you know, this sort of bubble. But anyway, I'm being corrected in the comments that Widow did have a significant side role in Iron Man 2, which yes, but like, and that's, you know, not that is ultimately the point, right? That yes, that they existed, they were introduced in other places in ways that made it easier to not have to do the Suicide Squad thing of introducing your entire cast 14 times. Sorry. Okay. That's a separate conversation. That's another conversation.
We're currently in the misery of early DCU, so you got to forgive us if we're watching other superhero stuff and thinking like, wow, think about how bad that other thing was.
I'm like literally in the middle of editing that episode of the podcast, so I just like, my brain is like, damn. Anyway, moving through so we've covered Monica, and Agatha Harkness. It's official. It's real. It's happening. Thoughts?
My thoughts are, I loved it. Again, it was confirmation of all of these things that we had guesses on, in moments where we're like, that's not quite right. And even things like last week, I was talking about the moment that she has with Herb, I think, that, you know, he was also kind of out of character. So I was questioning what that meant in terms of who Agatha was. And then in her little Agatha All Along, we see that she's influencing him to even like question in this way. So it felt like every moment that I noticed or that I had questions about, they addressed head on, and we were like, yes, like, you noticed, and this is right. So that was really, really satisfying. But the other portion of it is, and I don't know if this is wishful thinking now, because I love Agatha as a character and the idea of her like being this thing, they've set her up in a way, and a lot of things that I read today were like, oh, the big villain has been revealed. It's, you know, Agatha Harkness. And I don't know, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think that she is the big villain. And obviously we've talked about like Mephisto or whatever his name is in like the past, but I don't want her to be like the one note big villain. I want there to be something else there, because I love her mostly.
Yes. Yeah. The main thing is that I just like really love, I am delighted by this character. I also don't, so in my one and only, I know comics, okay, it's this, oh no, you are frozen. Oh, there you are again. Okay. Anyway, so Agatha Harkness is in these comics, as she's dead, but she's a ghost who is just like perpetually haunting Wanda, and they're pals. She's got like a very like motherly relationship with Wanda. I don't know. She is very like snarky and funny too, though. So that energy I enjoyed. But anyway, all of that to say that makes me really hope that they're gonna be friends. I want them to be friends in some way. But you know, who knows where exactly we're going? But like, yeah. Yes, I do appreciate that they addressed so many of the like the past moments and sort of nodded, but like they nodded to all of these things, but not in ways that like actually provided like concrete answers. It was just like, yes, that was off. that was off, and that was off. Like I still, it still feels very
She killed the
TBD.
dog.
Yeah. Yeah. There are still things about it that feel like TBD in terms of like what exactly was off. Like I, the she I don't know. She killed the dog, right? Like that to me, there so like yes, I killed the dog is like a very obviously like this is villain. That's like a way to signal that. However, it could be that like whatever the dog was clearly sent here by whatever the real big bad is, and so like that's why she killed the like I don't know like there I do not feel convinced yet that she is the real big bad. That's what do we think she did with the twins is a great question. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. And it's so funny because I hadn't even really thought about like, oh man, what did she do with the twins? Because it was immediately like, where are the kids in the basement of Don't Go In There? And then like reveal. So the kids like jumped out of my head into like this very moment that I was like, oh yeah, the kids are missing. But I'm not convinced that she necessarily even did anything with the kids. It wasn't like Wanda looked all over the house and couldn't find them anywhere. She was just like, where are they? And she was like, in the basement. And then they weren't there. So I don't know. Maybe it's because I haven't thought about it more that I don't have like a more concrete answer of like what she did. But I will say that from the beginning of like, okay, what's going on here? We know something is off. It has always been like really related to the twins.
Yeah.
She shows up time and time again in relation to them, from their birth to like, oh, she wasn't getting any sleep and helping them, and the whole dog storyline. Like it feels tied to the kids in a way that we know. Obviously, she's manipulating Wanda. We don't know why, but I feel like that there is still some tie with the children.
Miriam says that she thinks she gave the twins to the actual big bad. That feels like the most probable thing. I hate it, but it feels like the most likely thing. I just hate it because it's really not conducive to them being friends. Sorry, girl, I gave your kids away. Doesn't feel like the start of a long.
You wanted a day off.
My head had immediately when we were having this conversation, because as soon as you mentioned that, like, yes, it could have been any number of things because we didn't really see them. Like, she could have literally, like when she saw Monica out there, been like, kids, go play outside, and like that. That also feels plausible.
Probably not.
But I think that Miriam's guess is the probable explanation. So yes. Look, there are lots of friendships in the MCU that maybe don't start out great, okay? Wanda was trying to like murder the Avengers and then she became one of them, okay? Listen.
It's like a huge like comic thing that like your like, villain, your nemesis or whatever, like there are so many that dip in and out of being good, and like at one time, nemesis is now fighting alongside, like it's a superhero thing, like hold out to hope that these two girls who she gave her children away could one day
one day form a beautiful friendship. I just want them to be pals and do cool witchy things together. That's what I want to see. I also, something else that I thought was kind of neat, and again, this is like a thing that I'm not entirely sure I would have clocked had I not without the comics, but Nick, who I don't think he's watching with us now, but he mentioned this to me, that he was like, it seems weird or something about how they were doing sort of like early MCU colors. Agatha's like got a different sort of color. It was like it's like a thing that like witches have a color. Like that's a whole plot point in this, that like everybody's magic has a color. So I don't know, that I'm just excited. I'm excited about the other witch. Did anyone know what the
somebody in the chat,
the magic book was all about?
The comment before that alludes to the camera panning to like the rabbit, and what would be a Ada, like right when she's like, what happened to my kids? And the zoomy cameraman just goes ham on
Uh-huh.
like the rabbit in the cage.
Yeah, he does.
I had that moment of thinking, "Oh snap, she turned
Yeah.
it into an animal,"
That is
which
like
I
more of
did
a
not
fake out.
remember at all.
That I yes, I okay,
Yes.
I also had that thought, but now that we are talking about it, because yes, I did have the same thought that like yes, that was very clearly like what the the camera work there was clearly meant to signify that like they were transformed. I that to me feels like maybe it's just a fake out of some sort. Um,
Same. Yeah. Yes.
but I don't know. We'll find out next week. Uh, I feel like probably we're not gonna get more than one episode without like there are some answers that they're taking their time with, but I feel like where the fuck are the twins is one that we're gonna have to address next week. Although I guess there are only 2 more weeks. There's really only two more shots. So TBD. Magic book that has left my brain. I actually have no idea what that is. Somebody in the comments says, "Did
When she goes down into the basement of Don't Go In There, like Wanda's kind of looking around at everything, and one thing that we see is like this magic book, I think almost on a pedestal or whatnot. So talking about like the colors too, the colors that are like emanating from it are not the red or the purple. I can't quite remember what the color was, but it was very obviously like, look at this thing.
Yeah. Yes. And like I want to see a picture of it. I gotta look at
This
it.
week's Google break.
Yeah. Listen, there's so much to Google. Yeah, she's an old lady in all of these. Well, then she comes back to life at the end of this one. Spoiler. Okay, here we go. There's the book. Yeah. It's a different color. Yes. Okay, I see it now. That was really what I wanted to see. I wanted to address this the color thing. Yes, love a good glowing book. Yes, orangey. You are correct. Excellent memory. A plus work on that. Just think about how much more Mari will get out of this episode when she can watch it on a bigger screen.
I'm like, I didn't know it was this big, and I think it was glowing orange.
Amazing. Truly fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they featured it in a way that was like, this is significant. What that is, I don't know. Again, I don't know if this is like a Marvel deep cut from somewhere in the comics of the future or in the past. And I don't know.
I was gonna, yeah. We don't know. I don't know. That is not on the list of things that I had investigated prior to this moment, but I can't wait. Yes, it was clearly signaling something though. So who I am gonna hold on to the hope that whatever it's signaling is in some way related to why Agatha Harkness is eventually going to be Wanda's friend. That somehow there's a connection here.
Anybody has guesses in the chat too, like let us know.
The plot line here, the whole thing through all 3 books is that magic is like broken and corrupted in some way, and so Wanda has to go and figure out how to fix it. And like her ghost sidekick comes with her on their journey to fix magic. The key to magic. There's like a little, I don't know, is that a key? I don't know what that symbol is on this book, but all you could think about was Sabrina and the Devil book. Oh God, truly, truly hope that that's not the direction that we're going, but maybe it is.
My first thought was book from Hocus Pocus. So there's so many books to choose from.
Yeah, there's a lot. There are a lot of books to choose from here. Okay, wait, hold on. Create new. That's the one. Did I do it? Okay, you guys, I finally figured out how to put my Google search on the screen. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. I figured it out last time, but we had already long since moved past the question of Darcy's symbol, and so anyway, oh, Darcy's symbol. That's another thing. Okay, yeah, Darcy. I didn't give
Yes.
Darcy and Vision much time or attention in the plot synopsis because they didn't, like, plot-wise, they had a lot of screen time, but plot-wise, there wasn't much there. It was just, like, that, the whole point of that was just getting Vision up to speed and, like, and you know, getting Vision caught up on like, what is going on, so that starting next week, he will be acting with basically the same amount of information as Wanda has. So, like, plot-wise, there wasn't much there, but, like, I love, all of it was great. All of it was fantastic. Darcy, like, this use of Darcy, truly delightful. Like, getting her participation in the, like, the whatever, the sitcom bit, amazing. But the costume, yes, we spent all this time speculating, really wishing to have powers for Darcy. It was her fucking circus costume. So, you know.
Even when we were talking about it, we knew it was like a wish. It was not like a guess of like, we think this is where the show is going. It was like, wouldn't it be nice? But then we got hung up on the moment of like, oh, she's wearing something, so what could it mean? And we had talked about the circus like in the same episode.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know why in my head I never went, oh, duh, because it's not like a traditional circus, whatever. But it still did not. It did not click.
No.
And I would not be surprised if they did that. I mean, on purpose almost, because it does have like a very like uniformy, like soldiery, superhero-y kind of cut and look to it. So it was like a moment that I was like, oh, us.
Okay. All right. So yeah. Amy says, I just really appreciated Vision's talking head scenes and Agnes's I actually did bite a kid once. Yes. Oh man, yeah, all around every single one of the talking heads, truly delightful. I probably, so in addition to being the most consistently tense in this episode, I also probably laughed the most. Like I feel like in general, like there was just like wave, I was anxious all the time, but also every single one of the talking heads made me laugh. Like they were all great. And then even that tied into the Agatha reveal too. Like beautiful. Great work.
And again, not a harried mom, but like, because they made that immediately, like, you know, quarantine style staycation sort of thing, just seeing her over again being like, I'm okay, I'm fine. I'm like, me too. Fine too.
I know that mood. Yeah. That's the one. Yeah. And given that they were shooting this, that whole bit was obviously, they knew. they knew what they were doing. And as a general rule, I don't want my TV to acknowledge no, I don't want any TV show to talk about like, fuck it. If I'm watching TV, listen, that's the closest I get to going out into the world. It's watching fake people be out in the world. So don't. However, this is the acceptable way to do that. Like just like the nod, a little, you know, that was great. That I enjoyed. That was acceptable. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Oh, Haywood and Vision's body. Yeah, yes, the final, the answer to the great question of why the fuck they kept Vision's body for 5 years. That was another one too that I didn't have quite the same level as I did to my reaction to Darcy's costume, but I did have a like, oh duh, like that hadn't occurred to me that was like the objective. I think it did, and we just sort of got so focused on the idea of them keeping a corpse, like. And the fact that, the way that they didn't address that they were holding on to a corpse for 5 years, I feel like that was where I was like so focused on like, okay, but listen, why are you holding on to superhero corpse? I don't understand.
Yeah. I think we said a little bit here and there of like, okay, why don't they just bring him back, restart him? He's a computer. Like, and we talked about like his own wishes not to be weaponized, not to be brought back and weaponized. So like we knew we brushed along the point there. But also, yes, corpse 5 years. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it does, it tracks. I still feel like I'm like disappointed in just like Haywood as a character. It's like the most I don't know, like of all of the character writing, it's something. But I mean, he had one line in this episode. So if they continue to like, he had his big moment of being, a hammer to everybody else's, precision instruments, like. And so now just that was our time to learn that that's how he's gonna move through the show. And then we can get his, the occasional line here and there and like let that be it, then that's fine. I don't need any more time with him than that. Um, okay. Well, I
Anything else?
yeah, I don't. There's not. We don't have. I mean, the rest of the things, the narrative payoff stuff. When we actually have really been talking about it throughout. I don't know that I have a ton more to say, except that, yeah. To reiterate what we've already said, which is that like part of what I love about this whole show like it is the way in which they are properly seeding things, that they're doing like big things, but they're not trotting out their twists just for the sake of twists. And yeah, and I feel like I will have a lot more to say about this when we get to the end, but it's too early to zero in on all of those thoughts until I know what the payoff is for all of the things.
I had this moment, I think I said to you, Nicole, that like I have been thinking about these in such like an episodic manner. Like we keep having chats about each of them and like asking the question, did you like this? So it wasn't until you shared a tweet of somebody talking about how good this series has been that I was like, oh, like thinking about it, like this could be like a favorite season of TV, like of all time,
Mhm,
if it
mhm.
sticks the landing. And so now we're getting into those like final moments and episodes and I'm just like tense about it sticking the
Yeah.
landing. So like I'm like, oh, here we go, here we go.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. So there's a couple things going on in the chat here. So I do appreciate that they are already they're already mutinying sword agents. Yes. I think I also appreciate that in terms of like Haywood being this sort of like one note vision, like or whatever military man wants to get his weapon, will smash his way to it. Like it feels out of sync with it seems like a bad choice if they're gonna try to like use sword to any other like any like useful effect elsewhere. And so the fact that there are other sword agents who are like, no, we don't, that's not how we're gonna do this, is helpful. But also, I don't know. I don't entirely know how like what the military like tie-ins, like how like what that connection is. I think it is helpful that Monica, the daughter of the founder of Sword, is the one who is asking them to mutiny. And like on both sides of that. So like I am glad that that is happening to make it clear that like that Haywood is not the entirety of Sword, like that sort of signaling like, look, we have all of these other people mutinying, but also it gives it like some more like plausible in-universe context that it's coming from, that like Monica's the one who is like moving them in that direction. So in terms of characters we haven't discussed, the nameless mutinying sword agents. Uh,
Good job.
Good job to those people. Um, if they give Haywood some twist at the end, it might be worth it. Otherwise, meh. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Haywood doesn't feel he has not been a significant enough feature of any episode except for that one where we complained about it for me to feel like it like takes too much away from the whole. So I don't know. I don't care. I sort of expect that like they're gonna pursue this route to the end with this character, and it's fine. Are there any other thoughts on why things are glitching / the signal is no longer broadcasting? Is it just because things are ramping up and Wanda is losing control, or is there maybe another reason? And then there's a follow-up. The glitching and Wanda saying that she can't fix it suggests that that's Agnes's magic interfering. That's a guess. No purple clues actually saying it. I do, yes, the color would love to see that. More of that in future episodes, but I have no theories beyond that. I don't know. Do you?
I think that they have laid out enough breadcrumbs where I think that we're supposed to think along the lines of like other times, like when Wanda's having contractions and things are going haywire. Like things go haywire or glitch a lot in terms of like when she's having bad moments or things of that nature. So I think that the fact that she's expanded the hex and that she's in this like bad emotional place also, like she wakes up thinking about what she did and regretting what she did like the day before.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is supposed to be like the conclusion that we draw, is that she's losing control because one, now she has all this other like additional stuff to control, but also too, she's not in a good place. But I don't know if that's like a misdirection of some kind, like that's what we're supposed to think, but there's some other thing happening. But when I saw it, I was like, yeah, girl, things are harder now that you swallowed a whole like sword agency and you're keeping a circus alive. Like,
really up the difficulty level there by giving yourself a whole circus to maintain.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not in the best place, so, maybe things are glitching a little.
Yeah, yes. Expanding the hex might have, and also that the idea that expanding the hex itself might have overwhelmed whatever was sending out the broadcast. Yeah, that seems plausible. I mean, I feel like the broadcast is being sent out just by like magic. Oh, but also, okay, but wait. The hex and the broadcast, that also feels that is interesting to me because it makes me think, again, we were talking earlier about Monica and her powers and stuff and like how the hex gave her powers. And so that's like I don't know, it is interesting to think about. Like, I don't really know that much about what her powers ultimately like will be or are, but like given that she can control like given the things that I understand that she can kind of control, like the idea that the hex was like maybe sending out the broadcast and like that is also part of what made Monica. Agnes being behind the camera, yeah, that to me makes me feel like that's part of why I do buy. I forget who in the chat said it now, but that like that Agnes is somehow responsible for the feed not going. Yes, what Miriam said, it makes me feel like the broadcast was Agatha. Yes, the fact that we saw Agnes being behind the camera is interesting. Well, and especially because if Wanda isn't actually fully in control, but somebody clearly, whoever like is, clearly wants Sword to believe that Wanda is fully in control. And so, yeah, there are a number of things about the edit that like suggest that. And now that everything is like glitching, that seems, it's clear that she doesn't really have all that control. So I don't know.
And that's been our big question since episode 1, and they keep answering things around it, but we still don't have the answer to what is the balance of power here. Like, who is controlling what? How much are they giving, like, Wanda a leash here? And, so all of those pieces are still in question, especially as we see things that she's like, okay, I've lost control over this. The broadcast has ended. Like, we still don't know. We do not know.
We do not know
who is controlling what piece in this. We know now that we've confirmed there are multiple players, but we just don't know what that means.
I have felt for a long time, and like I feel all the more like that this feels solidified at this moment, that a number of the characters who, when their like fourth wall break moments with Wanda have been a form of gaslighting, basically trying to convince her that she is indeed solely responsible. And like this episode really felt like confirmation of that, just because of how much time she spends. Like this episode is about her feeling guilty, in the way that like we watched her for 6 episodes be in this state of like repressed grief, but this one is like very much about guilt specifically. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of feel like that is on purpose, like that somebody wants her to feel guilty about something. Miriam notes that she cuts Agatha, or who knows, cuts the broadcast before Agatha's reveal, despite her theme song being a banger. And yes, truly incredible. Monica
gave herself the best theme music.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Monica even says, "Don't let them make you the villain." And yes. All of that feels connected to all of this. Brady Hamilton says, "Don't know if anyone saw, but in an interview, Tiana Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau, said, I can't wait to see y'all's reaction when you learn who the aerospace engineer is." We haven't even seen the end of the aerospace engineer yet. Yes, I saw that as a thing. You got thoughts?
This is again another one of those moments where I think that we had that, okay, who's this person going to be, and there was a little bit of a misdirection because we get all of the like mutinying sword agents, and it was like no one. But she kept saying, I have this contact, and it was just like these people and their space rover, and so I had that moment of like, oh, okay, it was just like the on their space rover. But then I was like, is it like so hearing that like from an interview, that's confirmation that obviously they were calling this out because there is some other connection. I think the only thing that I've seen, and I can't even remember what character, but this will be like a way to include some of these other like universes, whether maybe it was Fantastic Four character or something like that.
No, as soon as you said Fantastic Four. Yeah. As soon as you said Fantastic Four, somebody in the chat also repeated, yes, aerospace engineer would be the guy from Fantastic Four, the dad, right? Yeah. See, I know something. Reed Richards. Yeah? Reed Richards? Did we do it? Did we say his name? Did we do it?
We did it.
We got there. You guys, names really not my strong suit. As demonstrated in the episode where I like explained a whole plot of things without naming anybody by name. So yeah, Fantastic Four have heard rumblings of that being the way that they were going to go. I don't know, man. I've rewatched the Agatha intro theme, 10 times. Like, yes, because it's so good. It's so good. Mr. Fantastic potentially played by John Krasinski is the rumor. Huh. Okay. All right.
Dang.
Okay.
Everybody's so proud of us in the chat.
I know.
Yeah, you did it. You're
Thank you.
Watching these.
Thank you. Or, I saw Magneto. Yes, I also saw Magneto. Because yes, okay, it's all coming back to me now. The other thing that I saw around the same time as Twitter was talking about this, about like, you don't know who the aerospace engineer is Paul Bettany saying that he is getting to work with an actor that he has always wanted to work with. So that suggests older, first of all, and like and since like one of Wanda's comic book origins is being Magneto's daughter, I learned in this that she's got like 3 different origin stories, like depending on which one you choose. One of the great things about comics is that like it doesn't really matter that the source material, because they're gonna do whatever the fuck they're gonna do. Which is great, and I love that. I truly love that. But anyway, yeah, who knows? Although the thing is, it could be an actor, it could be older. The way that they are also sort of like fucking with time and universes and stuff, I feel like there are ways in which it could be someone who isn't necessarily going to be the person in the long run. like we could be getting an actor and then like there will be some other sort of like weird subbing. So I don't know. Would be interesting if they did with Fantastic Four what they did with Hulk. This property doesn't work as standalone movies, so we'll just get them in other things. The thing with the Hulk is that it's an ownership thing. They can't. Marvel Studios can't make a Hulk movie. They can put Hulk in stuff, but because like the original Hulk movie, I don't know enough about, I can't name studios, okay, you guys, but the other studio, okay, the studio that made the bad one, they still own the rights to making the Incredible Hulk movies. So Marvel Studios can't do those, but they can do so like that was why they did the sort of like, you know, like backdoor Hulk movie tucked into Thor. Like that, yeah, that's the deal. But also like there are so many characters and so many things that like in general, like I think that this like the kind of thing that they're doing here of just like finding different ways to tie characters to moments is really the best way to do it. Universal, thank you, has the rights to solo Hulk movies. I mostly am just glad for this confirmation that I knew what I was talking about. Couldn't name a thing, can never name a thing, can describe a thing. That's me, host of this weekly live show. Anyway, oh, sorry, where were we going with this? The other characters. Oh, yeah, because the one thing, the real risk that they do run with introducing all of these characters in all of these places is trying to establish like real character continuity for these characters. So this is also something we were kind of talking about today, is like discussion of the possibility of like how Wanda is going to be portrayed in the Doctor Strange movie. And like, listen, I'm any version of Wanda Maximoff that suggests that she is not at the bare minimum top 3 most powerful Avengers, I reject it. Like that's false. That's a false narrative. So yeah, I don't know, like building those through lines. So like I don't, it's cool and exciting the way that they can do all of this big crossover magic. And like it's fun. It's fun when you're watching a thing and you're like, oh my God, the character I love from the other thing. Like it is genuinely fun and joyful when that happens. But also you then run the risk of then like I see that character and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And then like I keep watching and I'm like, oh, but what the fuck did you do with that character? Like, why did you do that with this character? Not to keep bringing up the DC, but like the fact that they end the Batman v Superman with Wonder Woman saying like, I walked away from humanity for 100 years or whatever. And then like we watch her at the end of her movie and she seems like pretty cool on humanity. Like, I don't understand. Like I'm not getting the connection there. So like, yeah, I mean, that's like a really small example, but like you run the risk of creating situations like that. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, top 4 are the Glow Eyes, Wanda, Captain Marvel, Thor, and Monica Rambeau as Photon Spectrum. I love this. I support this. The Glow Eyes. That's correct. The most powerful
Team Glow Eyes.
Team Glow Eyes. Yes, amazing. I'm ecstatic that newly introduced Monica Rambeau is like top tier. That's fantastic. I'm very excited because I don't actually know what the fuck she can do yet. You're frozen, but you're frozen on you laughing. It's truly the best way that you could have frozen on my screen right now. You're gone. Okay, well, I guess that's our cue to you are again. It's just like it's time. It's time to call it. We've been at this for over an hour now.
The spotty Wi-Fi was like, ma'am, I have done enough.
I quit. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us live if you did, or watching us later. If you are watching this later, I would love to hear any additional thoughts about stuff that we left out. Because there is always, it's wild to me that we can spend more time talking about an episode than we did watching it. But I feel like every time I finish this, I have more things to say. So, me and Monica wasn't crushed by Wanda, and Wanda almost shredded Thanos. So yeah, excellent point. Excellent point, Paul. Okay, well, thank you for joining this week's live stream. We'll see two more. Spotty Wi-Fi wanted to be part of the Glow Eye group. Yes. And on that note, goodbye, friends. I had